Wolfe Glick versus Hirofumi. Now, Wolf has got a team of Incineroar, Raging Bolt, Calyrex, Shadow, Rillaboom, Urshifu, and Farigiraf. Interestingly, this is very similar to his NEIC team, which was his worst performance. I believe he had a Pelipper over Raging Bolt. It's very similar to a lot of stuff he's been using all season. Like, he won a regional with like Incineroar, Rillaboom, Urshifu, and Farigiraf. And Wolf is 16-0, so he's 8-0, 16-0. He hasn't dropped a game in any of the best of threes. The Incineroar is the standard goggles, but instead of a Will-O-Wisp, it has Helping Hand. The Calyrex Shadow is Terra Water, so it's very good into stuff like Urshifu. And it has Psyshock. He ran Terra Blast before, but now he has Psyshock. It's Sash Urshifu. The Rillaboom looks fairly standard. The Raging Bolt's fairly standard, but it's Terra Fairy. And it's Terra Grass Throat Spray Farigiraf. So deciding he wants to be able to do damage with his Farigiraf. And then Hirofumi, we did see him yesterday, but he has got this Covert Cloak Chi-Yu. He's got Rock Ogapon, Calyrex Ice with Never Melt Ice, Flutter Mane, Raging Bolt, and Water Urshifu. So we've got the same Water Urshifu set, no Taunt on either one. The Calyrex without Clear Amulet is very interesting, because he can just be intimidated. So, but I guess like there's probably a lot of ways for this team to punish that. Like, this is a very like quite an offensive team for a Calyrex Ice team. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's a quite fast Calyrex Ice to work well with the Flutter Mane. The Chi-Yu being Covert Cloak is really interesting, especially into Wolf's team. I think it's very good because Wolf relies on the double fake out a lot. And he obviously can't fake out his Chi-Yu, so he's going to have to rely on killing it, not being able to stop it from what it was doing. The Ogapon is standard Ogapon with Power Whip, so it can threaten one-shots onto Urshifu, but this Urshifu is Sash from Wolf. Double Fairy move on Flutter Mane, but it is Terra Normal, which could be interesting. And then a Life Orb Raging Bolt. It does similar damage to a Booster Energy one, but it can still do the damage when it's switched out. So we are seeing Hirofumi is leading a Chi-Yu Flutter Mane, very, very common lead since Reg C, into Rillaboom Urshifu. So the Urshifu threatens like a lot of damage here, but it could die to a double up. But we don't know the speed tiers between the Chi-Yu and the Flutter Mane yet. If the Chi-Yu outspeeds, then Hirofumi can really safely just go for a Gleam and a Heat Wave. Whereas if he doesn't, Wolf can pick up the knockout on the Chi-Yu. But this is probably information that Wolf doesn't know, but Hirofumi does. We do see that Wolf has the Terrafire on the Rillaboom, so a Terrafire here would be very good because then he could resist basically any hit except a Snarl. We do see the Chi-Yu switching out from Hirofumi, deciding he doesn't want it in this position, going into Water Urshifu, which is a very interesting switch in front of a Rillaboom and another Urshifu, and we do see the Terra coming out on the Rillaboom, the Terrafire, which is now weak to the Urshifu, so maybe Hirofumi saw that coming, wanted to cover for the Terrafire, and wants to be able to threaten it next turn, and we do see a Protect as well. So, what is Wolf doing with this Urshifu? Goes for the Detect, and we're going to see a Wood Hammer go into that Protect. So that was a very, very good turn one from Hirofumi, but I feel like Wolf can just threaten this Urshifu with like a Grassy Glide and Aqua Jet. But I'm not sure if that would be enough to pick up the knockout. I don't think it would, because Grassy Glide isn't that powerful, but it is super effective, so maybe it would. Like, the issue here is Rillaboom. I don't think Wolf really, looking at the 4 that Wolf has brought, he doesn't have great switches to Surging Strikes now that he's not a Grass type Rillaboom. So, he's really going to struggle with this Urshifu and needs to get rid of it. So, I think that a very possible play is Grassy Glide in close combat, or Grassy Glide and Aqua Jet. That's what I think I would do, but we do see these go for the switch. And if you're Hirofumi, I think you Surging Strikes for Rilla, and you could just Gleam, you could Icy Wind to be safer. And we do see Wolf switch from his Urshifu into Calyrex. This is a Covert Cloak Calyrex, so it can't be, what's it called? Icy Winded. But we see an Aqua Jet from Hirofumi into the opposing Urshifu slot, which is now a Calyrex. And a Moonblast, so deciding he wants to get rid of that Urshifu. Probably deciding if he gets rid of... Probably realising if he gets rid of Urshifu, then... If he gets rid of Urshifu, then his Chi-Yu does really well. So in this position, I think Oh, it's a bit awkward. I'm not sure if that Moonblast is going to do enough to pick up the Calyrex. If it does, then Hirofumi has a very safe just Moonblast for Calyrex and Searching Strikes for Rillaboom. And I think it probably does from that range. This does look very awkward for Wolf, but maybe he can just get a Grassy Glide onto that Urshifu. That Urshifu maybe needs to protect in case of a Grassy Glide, which might give Wolf an opportunity to Wood Hammer the Flutter Mane. We do see Wolf is switching into his Incineroar, so deciding to keep his Calyrex safe, which you don't really want your Restricted to go down after, like, no attack. We do see the Aqua Jet come out onto the Calyrex and a Dazzling Gleam. So, deciding he wanted to threaten the Calyrex, but still wanted to do Gleam to be able to do damage, but Wolf does get the Wood Hammer one-shot onto the Flutter Mane, which is really good now. I don't think Hirofumi has anything that outspeeds the Calyrex Shadow from Wolf now, so it's in a fairly good position. He just needs to make sure he can get his Calyrex into position. He needs to be wary of the Chi-Yu, because obviously it can't do much damage to the Chi-Yu. And we do see the Chi-Yu coming back in. So now the Chi-Yu's not actually threatening that much damage, so you could probably just, I think, like a Grassy Glide and a Parting Shot is a fairly good play, and I don't know how Hirofumi beats that. Maybe Hirofumi needs to switch, but it depends what he has in the back. You've got to expect that it's Calyrex Ice. And it feels like he can't really safely switch it in, but it's not particularly good in this matchup anyway. He is switching out, deciding he needs to keep the Urshifu. I think that's correct to keep the Urshifu. And it's switching into Raging Bolt, so we didn't even bring the Calyrex Ice, which is very, very interesting to know. Like, he doesn't bring Calyrex Ice into standard Calyrex, but he's still undefeated, so it must be working. Grassy Glide goes into the Raging Bolt, doesn't do much, and then a Parting Shot goes into the Chi-Yu. So now, this Rillaboom's still in a really good position. In this position, Hirofumi's threatening a lot of damage, but I don't think he's threatening enough damage onto that Rillaboom. That Terrifire Rillaboom is putting in a lot of work. He could maybe go for like a Heat Wave and Thunderbolt the Incineroar. I think that would probably pick up a knockout, but I don't think the Incineroar from Wolf is that useful anymore. But like knocking it out isn't that important. So I think that Hirofumi needs to start targeting down this Rillaboom, because that's what's threatening his Shifu in the back. And if I'm Wolf, I think I want to start getting damage on this Chi-Yu so that it can beat the so that the Calyrex can beat it. But I guess with Thunderclap, what's it called? Thunderclap Raging Bolt, the Calyrex isn't as good because it's probably always going to be a Thunderclap range. So I think actually the Calyrex isn't as good in this matchup, knowing now that it's Raging Bolt. And we do see the Thunderbolt coming out, and it does pick up the knockout with a crit onto that Incineroar. But I don't think that crit mattered. It is Life Orb and there's Beads of Ruin. It depends how the Raging Bolt is trained, I guess. But now this is interesting because Wolf actually doesn't have great ways to beat this Raging Bolt. So he's going back into Rillaboom. He should maybe, I think here he can actually threaten like a fake out Surging Strikes, maybe even a fake out Close Combat. Hirofumi hasn't Terra'd yet, so the Terra could be huge for him. So I think if you're Wolf, I would go for like a fake out into the Raging Bolt and a Close Combat into the Chi-Yu. And if I'm Hirofumi, ooh, I really don't know. I can't remember if it's Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse, but you need to start doing damage to this Rillaboom. Maybe try and put the Rillaboom in Aqua Jet range. But we do see the Raging Bolt switching out. I like that play. I think that's quite a good play. Just making sure it gets no damage on it. But he also needs to get his Shifu in. But Wolf goes for the Grassy Glide on a Raging Bolt, predicting the switch in it and gets rid of it. And then a Heat Wave comes out from Chi-Yu, but it misses one because it's Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu never hits, you know? So, and we do see a Close Combat onto the Chi-Yu, getting the knockout. So now Wolf, I don't see how he loses this game. Just Hirofumi only has a Raging Bolt left against Wolf's Rillaboom, Urshifu, and Calyrex Shadow. And I think this game was a perfect, like, showing of how good just one Terra can be. Like, terrestrializing that Rillaboom really just changed this whole matchup, and it felt like Hirofumi had nothing to deal with it. I think there was a few turns Hirofumi probably could have gone after the Rillaboom, but maybe wasn't expecting it to stay in. So I think now if you're Wolf, you probably just close combat and U-turn. Okay, it goes for Detect. I think that makes sense. And then there's a U-turn, and he goes into Calyrex Shadow. If Hirofumi targets down the Shifu, then he gets Calyrex Shadow in, and he probably like Nasty Plot and close combat, and the Raging Bolt can't get rid of both. And if he goes after the Cali Shadow, then he gets Rillaboom back in, and he can fake out close combat. So that's just a really safe way to win. Like we see, Hirofumi does go for the T-Bolt, so does get the right target, but now he's going to have to take a close combat because he can't protect against it. So maybe then he had to let the Calyrex come in, but Calyrex would have just Astral Barraged. Like I said, that you go for Nasty Plot, but you actually don't there because you just want the damage on the turns that you can guarantee you're getting damage. So now, yeah, Rillaboom's back in. I can't imagine we'll see anything else but a close combat and a fake out, and then Rillaboom should be able to end the game. So, how would you adjust? I think bringing the Ogerpon from Hirofumi is quite good. Like, he really struggled against that fire Rillaboom, and he needs a better way to hit the fire Rillaboom than an Urshifu, and Ogerpon seems like the obvious choice. Should he be bringing the Calyrex Ice is another question. I don't think so. I think because it's not clear Amulet, and because he hasn't got a particularly strong Trick Room mode, he maybe shouldn't bring it. It doesn't do well into a lot of what Wolf brought. I think that Ogerpon should be coming, but I'm not sure what instead of. Because the Flutter Mane from Hirofumi was very threatening early game. The Chi-Yu is quite threatening for his team as well, that he needs to preserve the Urshifu, but he preserved the Urshifu amazingly. So maybe you need to leave one of Urshifu and Raging Bolt, I think. But he kind of struggled to hit the Raging Bolt. He just played around it well. But leaving Urshifu means you're still going to have a bit of issues versus that Fire-type Rillaboom. It's just because you want more than one way to deal with it. And the problem was Wolf was always pressuring Hirofumi's Urshifu, which was his way to deal with it. So I want to see the Fire-type Rillaboom. No, the Rock Ogerpon. But I really don't know what instead of. And then if you're Wolf, I think you go the exact same. Farigiraf, I don't think there's any reason, because Hirofumi doesn't have a Fake Out Mon. I don't think he has any redirection at all. No, any priority at all. We do see Incineroar Calyrex lead this time into Calyrex Ice and Raging Bolt. So we see a switch up from Hirofumi, but because he's not the clear Amulet, he is getting intimidated right away. So, ooh, this is an interesting situation, because he could actually set up a Trick Room here. Like, a Trick Room from Wolf, I think, is a very, very solid play. No, a Trick Room from Hirofumi. Like, you Trick Room and you Thunderbolt for Calyrex. Because if I'm Wolf, I'm tempted to just Nasty Plot, fake out that Raging Bolt. But then if a Trick Room goes up, I'm probably going to struggle a bit. So maybe Wolf needs to just get damage this turn, because he can get free damage. Because, like, you fake out the Raging Bolt, Astral Barrage, you get some free damage. And then when Trick Room goes up, you're more it's a lot better to switch out your Calyrex when you're not boosted, basically. Because you don't want to, like, Nasty Plot, he gets Trick Room up, and then suddenly you have to protect the Calyrex in situations, and you're never really safe. And if I'm Hirofumi, I think I do just T-Bolt the Calyrex and set up Trick Room. But Hirofumi disagrees, switching out the Calyrex, going into Chi-Yu. Ooh, so if a Fake Out wasn't going into that Raging Bolt, he'd be doing a lot more damage. But the Fake Out is going to that Raging Bolt and an Astral Barrage. That Astral Barrage is now boosted by Beads of Ruin. This is also another reason why Nasty Plot wouldn't be as good. And that does a lot of damage. I know it's Beads of Ruin boosted, but that's kind of impressive. Did it just skip a bit? I don't think that was on my end. So yeah, it goes for Fake Out. I've already shown this. Astral Barrage, which does a lot of damage and some okay damage to the Chi-Yu. So now if you're Wolf, you could just launch another Astral Barrage. But then you're probably taking a Snarl, which you don't want. You could like Protect and Parting Shot, but then you're not getting that much either. Also, I realised I was wrong about our priority moves from Hirofumi. There's Aquajet and there's Thunderclap. So we did actually see Wolf he didn't actually bring the Rillaboom. The thing that I feel like carried him game one, he didn't bring. He brought Farigiraf and he brought the Shifu, which I find very interesting. And we do see Farigiraf coming in for the Incineroar. Not in a particularly strong position here, but it's still nice and friendly. Okay, I see what he's doing. So he brought it in to stop a Thunderclap because that way he can Terra to make sure that he's not weak to Snarl. And even if Hirofumi goes for a Snarl, that doesn't lower his special attack. So that was just a very smart and safe play from Wolf, getting himself to +1, covering for a Thunderclap, covering for Protect because a Snarl won't do that much. That's just, I don't think... That was easily Wolf's best play. That was actually so impressive to see. I don't think I would have ever come up with that. We do see the Snarl come out. It does over 50% to this Farigiraf, but honestly, that one turn, Farigiraf did its job, and it does about 50 HP to the Calyrex, but it doesn't lower the special attack. And now we see the Flutter Mane coming back in. So, Hirofumi hasn't Terra'd yet. And it is a Terra normal Flutter Mane, so we could see that come out. But that just stops it from doing damage to the Flutter Mane, which I guess is good unless he Side Shocks it. If you're Wolf, you could probably make a very defensive play here of Protect and switch in Incineroar. You don't lose too much from that. Worst case is you take a Moonblast and like a Heat Wave. And even then, maybe Incineroar lives. It probably should live. And then you just have a good defensive tool. But you can't Fake Out anything. Unless you can, because we do see a Terra coming out, and it is that Flutter Mane going from a Terra normal. So now it is immune to Astral Barrage, but Wolf still has Side Shock, which can do a lot of damage to it, and it can be faked out now, which is kind of huge. And we do see the Protect coming out from the Calyrex Shadow, and a Protect from the Chi-Yu. So I imagine this might be, I think it's just a Moonblast, it might be a Gleam. Moonblast going into the Protect on the Calyrex Shadow. Honestly, Wolf is playing like incredibly this game. I'm shocked. Not overly shocked because it was Wolfe Glick, but this is very good. So now, because the Chi-Yu is just protected, I think it's actually really safe to just Fake out the Flutter Mane, go for the Astral Barrage. Astral Barrage might pick up Chi-Yu from here, and if it does, then Hirofumi also doesn't have any switch-ins. But maybe it won't. We do see Hirofumi going for the double Protect. I guess like he sort of knows what Wolf's going to do, but he has nothing to stop it, and a double Protect is his best play. Incineroar goes for Fake Out on the Flutter Mane. Astral Barrage comes out. Flutter Mane isn't affected by it, but it does affect the Chi-Yu, and it's not enough to pick up a knockout, so maybe then Hirofumi could have got an attack off with the Chi-Yu, but he decided he wanted to try and keep it safe and risk for double Protect. He's very behind in this game, but I think going for double Protects makes sense. Also, funny thing is, if you look at the graphic, Wolf's got 2 Incineroars. What? That's not allowed. I know this guy likes Incineroar. He actually doesn't like Incineroar, but I know this guy likes using Incineroar, but 2 is not allowed. Yeah, so if you're Wolf, I think an Astral Barrage and a Parting Shot is probably fairly safe, but you could go for like a knockoff into the Chi-Yu slot and a Psyshock so that you can actually hit the Flutter Mane. I think Psyshock would actually pick up the knockout because Flutter Mane's like physical bulk is so bad. We do see a Protect from the Flutter Mane. And what do we see? And we see a Protect from the Calyrex, so I guess just scouting out a bit, doesn't want to take a Moonblast. Maybe he thinks he can't take a Moonblast with Beads of Ruin, but the Party Shot goes into the Flutter Mane. The Flutter Mane's Protect. So now Wolf's in a bit of an awkward position because he wants to Astral Barrage to attack this Calyrex, but then he's doing nothing to the Flutter Mane. And he wants to Psyshock the Flutter Mane, but then he's leaving the Calyrex. So this might be a good turn for Hirofumi to like just call a 50-50 and go for a Protect. But we do just see a Moonblast come out, not doing enough. I don't even think with Astral Barrage, with Beads of Ruin, it would have been enough. And we see the Astral Barrage coming out. And it doesn't pick up the knockout on the Calyrex Shadow. That is a +1 Astral Barrage, not picking up the knockout on the Calyrex Shadow. And we do see the Party Shot coming out onto the Flutter Mane. But what's he going to go into? Because he could go into the Farigiraf, but maybe he doesn't. Then he might go down to the Glacial Lance, or he could go into the Urshifu that would take the Glacial Lance well, but it would break his sash. So Hirofumi maybe has a way back into this. It depends what this Calyrex does now. It goes for Glacial Lance. Is it going to be enough to pick up Wolf's Calyrex? It isn't! The Terra Water! Terra Water putting in so much work there. That's so impressive. And now we're also in an awkward position because maybe, actually, I think Wolf wanted the Calyrex to go down there. Because then he gets the Incineroar in and he can threaten like a fake out Surging Strikes. But in this position, you can Aqua Jet the opposing Calyrex to pick up a knockout, and it'll do a lot to the Chi-Yu if it switches in. I don't remember how much HP the Chi-Yu is on, but if it's on low, then it's a guaranteed knockout. But maybe you want to keep this Urshifu safe so that you can beat the Flutter Mane with it. I think that Wolf is kind of running out of ways to beat Flutter Mane. And we do see he goes for Protect with his Calyrex. Aqua Jet going onto the opposing Calyrex, picking up the knockout. And this Flutter Mane, I don't see any world where it doesn't just go for a Gleam. This should pick up the knockout on the Urshifu. Oh, and it doesn't! Okay, I was overestimating Flutter Mane there. It doesn't pick up a knockout, and now if Wolf's... Oh, so it is very low, so it is an Aqua Jet range. Wolf could just Aqua Jet that and switch in Incineroar. And I think that's pretty safe. And then maybe with Incineroar Farigiraf and Calyrex, he probably should be able to do this. Like, he can just bring in the Calyrex, go for like a fake out nasty plot, and then go for a Parting Shot and a Protect. And then you've got a -2... You're facing down a -2 Flutter Mane, but even though it can KO your Calyrex, you've got your Incineroar for Farigiraf, and that should be enough to win the game. Actually, this turn, he should just... presuming that the Urshifu goes down, he should just go into Farigiraf. Yeah. And now he can just fake out Trick Room and then, like, knock off Hyper Voice. He could knock off... He could Parting Shot Hyper Voice if he wanted to in Trick Room, but I think... I don't know. I think Wolf just wins here. Like, Wolf is in such a commanding position. We do see no Protect from the Flutter Mane, but there's not much Hirofumi can do. Wolf has a guaranteed win. He can just go for knockoffs and Hyper Voices, and he'll end up winning the game. That honestly, that was such an impressive game from Wolf, especially as game 1, I felt like he was being carried by that Fire Rillaboom, and then he doesn't even bring it game 2. That's very impressive. Wolf obviously just a very, very solid player, and showing it there, using good Pokemon, and you can win. Hirofumi, I think, played pretty well as well, but I think Wolf just was really able to cover all of the plays that Hirofumi was doing. Hirofumi's team is a very threatening, hyper-offensive team for the most part, whereas Wolf just used his defensive tools and beat it. Both of Wolf's Terrors really put in work, and I think that's one of the most impressive uses of terrestrialization I've seen, like, this entire gen.